And on to the details now. India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi will hold summit talks with Russian President Vladimir Putin in Moscow. PM Modi arrived in Moscow on Monday on a two-day visit to Russia. He was received by the first Deputy Prime Minister of Russia and accorded ceremonial welcome. PM Modi also met members of Indian diaspora.
Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi arrived in Moscow to great fanfare. Prime Minister Narendra Modi was received by Russia's first Deputy Prime Minister Denis Manturov at the Vnukovo Second Airport and was accorded a ceremonial welcome upon his arrival. After landing in Moscow, Prime Minister Modi on a social media post said, "Looking forward to further deepening the special and privileged strategic partnership between our nations, especially in futuristic areas of cooperation. Stronger ties between our nations will greatly benefit our people." After reaching the hotel in Moscow, Prime Minister Modi received a traditional warm welcome from the Indian diaspora. On Tuesday, Prime Minister Narendra Modi and Russian President Vladimir Putin will engage in private talks, followed by delegation-level discussions led by both leaders. India and Russia are currently preparing a series of outcome documents across various areas, which will be a result of the summit.
Prime Minister has a packed schedule. He'll be attending the 22nd Annual Summit. He will have restricted and delegation-level talks, and he will meet the Indian community. He will address the Indian community members and also visit Rosatom, an exhibition space.
The Prime Minister is also scheduled to meet with the Indian community in Russia on Tuesday and lay a wreath at the tomb of the unknown soldier in the Kremlin. Additionally, a visit to the Rosatom Pavilion at the Moscow exhibition venue is on the agenda. The 22nd Annual Summit between India and Russia will provide an opportunity for both leaders to review the full spectrum of bilateral issues, including defense, trade, investment, energy cooperation, science and technology, education, culture, and people-to-people exchanges.
Prime Minister Narendra Modi will be accompanied by Russian President Vladimir Putin at the Atom Exhibition Center here in Moscow. Now, this exhibition center showcases the history of achievement of the Soviet Union in the nuclear industry that goes much beyond weapons and also focuses on medicines and digital industry. The two leaders will also be looking at the history of the nuclear industry from the Soviet era to the modern times and the cooperation between the two countries. The Prime Minister will also be interacting with students, both Indian and Russian, tomorrow here at this center. This is Jessica Thaneja with video journalist Shubham in Moscow for DD India.
Well, Russian President Putin hosted a private dinner for PM Modi at his country home on the outskirts of Moscow. Both the leaders got an opportunity away from the public glare to focus on more sensitive issues on the agenda. Well, Russia is a long-standing and time-tested partner for India. Since both countries raised their partnership to a strategic partnership in October 2000, the ties have acquired a qualitatively new character. Political, security, defense, trade, science and technology, culture and people-to-people ties are the broad areas of cooperation. Mihir Maikuri reports for more.
India and Russia share a long history of cooperation that dates back decades. Russia has been a long-standing and time-tested partner to India. Development of India-Russia relations has been a key pillar of India's foreign policy. The annual summit between the Prime Minister of India and the President of the Russian Federation is the highest institutionalized dialogue mechanism in the strategic partnership between India and Russia. India and Russia share deep historical roots, significantly strengthened by Prime Minister Narendra Modi during his tenure as Chief Minister of Gujarat. Now let's take a look at the growing ties between India and Russia. PM Modi's first visit to Russia on the 6th of November 2001 when he was Chief Minister of Gujarat. PM Modi accompanied the then Prime Minister Atal Bihari Vajpayee to Moscow for India-Russia summit with President Vladimir Putin. During this visit, the then Chief Minister Modi signed a protocol pact for cooperation between Gujarat and Astrakhan. They agreed to work together in the fields of diverse sectors including trade, education, petroleum and hydrocarbon sectors, science and technology, tourism and culture. In 2006, the then Chief Minister visited Astrakhan and met the Governor Alexander Zilkin. The Protocol Pact for Cooperation was extended for another 5 years. In 2009, he was invited to address the 4th International Energy Week and the 9th Russian Oil and Gas Week conference. Since 2014, India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi has placed special emphasis on strengthening India-Russia ties, boosting relations across various sectors. 60% of trade between India and Russia is now done in national currencies. Bilateral trade is set to reach an all-time high of $65.7 billion in FY 22-23. Key exports from India include pharmaceuticals, organic chemicals and iron and steel. Major commodities imported from Russia include oil, petroleum products and fertilizers. India-Russia bilateral investments surpassed the previous target of $30 billion in 2018. The revised target of $50 billion has been set for 2025. Now let's take a look at the defense ties. Biennial joint military exercises titled Indra conducted between the armed forces of India and Russia. India holds a 2+2 dialogue with Russia involving foreign and defense ministers. Indian Army has Russian tanks like T-72 and T-90. The Indian Air Force also has variants of MiG-21, Su-30 and MiG-29 aircraft in its fleet. The Russian President Vladimir Putin has always praised PM Modi's leadership. PM Modi also calls Russia a time-tested partner. This visit has taken the ties of the two countries to a new high. Mihir Maikori's report, DD India.
Well, India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi will also visit Austria's capital, Vienna, after his Russia trip. The last time an Indian Prime Minister went to Austria was over 40 years ago. Although India and Austria have been friends for 75 years with extensive trade, tech, sustainable development and people-to-people ties. The PM will also be interacting with the 31,000-strong Indian diaspora in Austria to further strengthen relations with a key European nation. And for more on Prime Minister's Austria visit, we have Gautam Roy joining us from Austria. Well, Gautam, as we celebrate 75 years of diplomatic relations with India, PM calls upcoming Austria visit historic occasion. What is Prime Minister Modi's itinerary for today?
Good morning, Lapakshi. Well, Prime Minister Modi is going to arrive in Austria, in Vienna, at 6:30 p.m. local time. That's about 10 p.m. India time. And he has a dinner that he will be hosted for by the Federal Chancellor Karl Nehammer. Those are the engagements for today, because the official part of the engagement begins on Wednesday, right from 9:55 a.m. local time here in Vienna. That's when all the formal talks with the Federal Chancellor, delegation level talks, whatever the two leaders have to tell the media, the statements, the calling on the Federal President as well, Van der Bellen, everything will take place on Wednesday. He's also meeting the Indian diaspora, and what's happening for the first time is the Austria-India CEOs Forum. That will be meeting as well, and then it will be presenting a report to the leaders. This is something that has not happened before, and there's a lot of interest in India, particularly on the economic front in Austria, because for the CEOs Forum, what was being expected by the Indian embassy was that there'll be about a dozen or 15 Austrian companies, CEOs, that will perhaps be part of this forum, but the number has swelled over the last few days to 28, more than double that. The Indian CEOs, and 5 of them are from startups, are only about a dozen or so. The Austrian contingent is far more. Of course, it's home for them, but there's a lot of interest, and these CEOs are those of companies that already have certain business in India, but there are also those who are looking to develop their business in India and have extensive ties with India, because India is a huge market that is very well known, and there are a lot of opportunities, particularly where boosting infrastructure is concerned. So the talks that leaders will have will be focused largely on the economic front, that is energy, trade, manufacturing and fertilizers. And since there's a lot of focus here in Austria and all over the world on Prime Minister Modi's Moscow visit as well, we can see in the Standard here, Der Standard, this is one of the papers that I could get hold of. It's quite early in the morning right now in Vienna. It clearly says that Prime Minister Modi has been to Moscow before Austria, but it also reports on how the Prime Minister will be having extensive engagements with the top Austrian leadership as well when he's in Vienna over the course of Tuesday and Wednesday.
All right, Gautam, India is a huge market, as you said. But what can we expect in relation to closer collaboration on many geopolitical challenges right now?
Yes, Lipakshi, that is something that the leaders will be taking head on. We've been told by sources that they will clearly say that a solution cannot be found on the battlefield. That is, of course, in the context of what's been happening in Ukraine, and perhaps that could also apply to what has been happening as far as Gaza is concerned between the Palestinians and Israel. And furthermore, sources have also said that India has always called for respecting the UN Charter, including territorial integrity and sovereignty, and there is no solution on the battlefield. Dialogue and diplomacy is the way forward. So this is something that perhaps will find a place in the statements of the leaders as well when these statements are made on Wednesday.
All right, Gautam, thank you so much for all that information from there. And moving on, NATO is expected to pledge unwavering support for Ukraine this week as leaders meet in Washington, D.C. for the 75th anniversary summit of the military alliances. The United States says security threats in the Indo-Pacific will also be discussed during the three-day meeting. Nick Harper reports for more from Washington, D.C.
The US says discussions about Ukraine's membership to NATO will be central to this summit. The alliance plans to agree on what's being called a bridge to membership. That would see Ukraine continue to make reforms, which in return, the US State Department says, would make Ukraine's path to membership irreversible. NATO Secretary-General Jens Stoltenberg says that allies are close to formulating the next steps plan for Ukraine, something which could be agreed on during this summit. Leaders are also expected to commit to extra support for Ukraine. That includes a command centre in Germany to train Ukrainians, the delivery of more weapons and ammunition, a substantial increase in air defence capabilities, plus around €40 billion of financial support for the country. This week, the Indo-Pacific partners, namely New Zealand, Australia, Japan and South Korea, will also be in Washington to meet with NATO heads. China and North Korea's support of Russia, including giving Moscow weapons for its war in Ukraine, has worried NATO allies. That, along with Beijing's expansionism in the South China Sea. The four Indo-Pacific partners are expected to discuss with NATO better cooperation on issues like cybersecurity and fighting disinformation, while also looking to build up defence industrial bases. The US's senior advisor for Europe at the National Security Council said on Monday that the security of Europe hinges on security in the Indo-Pacific. Leaders have already begun arriving in Washington. Later on Tuesday, they meet to officially commemorate the 75th anniversary of the alliance at the very location here in the city where the alliance originally signed the pact. Then on Wednesday, NATO's newest member, Sweden, will be welcomed before a formal dinner at the White House. And then major meetings on Ukraine and the Indo-Pacific on Thursday. Nick Harper in Washington, reporting for DD India.
Well, South Korean President Yoon Suk-yeol said he would discuss with NATO leaders the distinct threat North Korea poses to Europe by deepening military ties with Russia, warning that Moscow must choose between the two Koreas where its true interest lies. South Korean President said that it depends entirely on Russia where it wants to take future ties with South Korea, adding that Seoul would make a decision on weapon support for Ukraine based on how a new military pact between Moscow and Pyongyang plays out. And still to come in DD India News Hour. We'll give you a roundup on the French election result after Macron has refused to accept the PM's resignation in the wake of inconclusive poll results. US President Biden under scrutiny over his health. Democrats call on Biden to step down, but Biden stands firm, says running race to the end. Also, we will update you on Israel-Hamas talks as Hamas chief says latest Israeli attacks on Gaza could jeopardize ceasefire talks.
We just don't bring you the news as it unfolds. We get to the heart of the matter.
We don't just present facts, we demystify complex social, political and economic events.
We break stories that shape the world's present and future because you deserve the truth.
I am Tanvi Taneja from New Delhi.
I'm Ollie Barrett from London.
I'm Nick Harper from Washington, D.C.
Join us on DD India Global Monday to Friday at these times.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India News. I'm Lepakshi Khuranan. And moving on, a surprise result in France's parliamentary elections has kept the country waiting for a new government with no parties securing a majority. It's a loss for President Macron's party Renaissance, but also a loss for the predicted winner, the far-right National Rally. DD India's Stuart Smith has more from Paris. Take a look.
The far-right National Rally Party says it was defeated by an unnatural political alliance, a bloc of centrists with a bloc of left-wingers working together to try to make sure that a far-right government didn't make it into power. That is what has happened, and it seems to have worked on Monday. No right-wing government for France, but also no potential for any other government. The left bloc and centre bloc that worked together in this election to make sure the far right did not make it into power are also diametrically opposed on so many issues. The left-wingers, for example, would entirely revoke the centrist policies related to tax reform that Emmanuel Macron has pushed through with his party over the last 7 years. So now coalition talks are beginning, but with no clear sense how on earth there can be a path here to shared government, something which is not normal in France, while the Olympics take place, an event of international importance, and while these coalition talks continue. The far right says it's not out. National Rally says this is just them getting ready for 2027 when they'll have a go at the presidential election, and indeed they doubled the number of seats despite the centrists and the left-wingers for working together to prevent their victory. So by no means has that party gone away, but in the meantime France is left without a government, and it does mean that there will be weeks and months of talks to try to create one. Stuart Smith in France, reporting for DD India.
Well, as the US President Joe Biden is going to host a NATO summit to mark its 75th anniversary in Washington, D.C. from July 9th to 11th, a White House spokesperson said that the NATO members are assured of the leadership of Biden and his seriousness about the grouping.
I think your question presupposes the notion that they need to be reassured of American leadership and President Biden's commitment, and I don't believe that's the case. We're not picking up any signs of that from our allies at all, quite the contrary. The conversations that we're having with them in advance, they're excited about this summit, they're excited about the possibilities and the things that we're going to be doing together, specifically to help Ukraine.
Well, the White House comes with a supporting statement for US President Biden after a report surfaced about his Parkinson's disease. Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre stressed on Monday that Biden was not being treated for Parkinson's disease. A report by New York Times revealed that a doctor specializing in the illness visited the White House at least 8 times from August to March. Parkinson's is basically a disorder of the central nervous system that affects movement, often including tremors.
President being treated for Parkinson's? No. Is he being treated for Parkinson's? No, he's not. Is he taking medication for Parkinson's? No. So those are the things that I can give you full-blown answers on, but I'm not going to confirm a specialist, any specialist that comes to the White House.
Well, the US President Biden is under severe scrutiny over his physical and mental health. This is after his disastrous presidential debate with Republican rival Donald Trump. A growing number of Democrats in the US Congress are calling on Biden to end his re-election bid. Meanwhile, Biden, dismissing the concerns, has vowed to run in the race till the end. He stood firm and told congressional Democrats in a letter on Monday that he would continue his election bid. And First Lady Dr. Jill Biden started off campaign for her husband and Democrat Joe Biden on Monday in North Carolina, endorsing his second term. She declared she is all in for her husband.
For all the talk out there about this race, Joe has made it clear that he's all in. Thank you. Thank you. That's the decision that he's made. And just as he has always supported my career, I am all in too. I know you are too, or you wouldn't be here today. And with 4 more years, Joe will continue to fight for you, the military community that we are humbled and proud to call our own.
The daughter of the late Canadian writer Alice Munro, Andrea Robin Skinner, accused her stepfather of sexually abusing her as a child. Skinner also blamed her mother and said that she stood by her husband even after Skinner told her about the abuse. Andrea Robin Skinner wrote in a Canadian daily newspaper on Sunday that the abuse began in the summer of 1976. When Skinner finally told her mother about the abuse, Munro reacted as if she had learned of an infidelity. Munro, who died earlier this year at 92, was one of Canada's most acclaimed authors, celebrated for her short stories. She won the Nobel Prize for Literature and the International Man Booker, 2 of the world's most prestigious literary prizes. And updates now on the Israel-Hamas conflict. Hamas chief on Monday threatened that Israel's latest offensive in Gaza could jeopardize ceasefire talks. The terror group said the new offensive appeared intended to derail the talks. The Israeli army released a video on Monday showing ground forces operating in Gaza. The Israeli military in a statement said it had been mounting an operation against terror infrastructure in Gaza and that it had taken out of action more than 30 Palestinian fighters who posed a threat to Israeli troops. Israeli military later issued new evacuation orders for the Gaza city areas of Sabra, Rimal, Tel Hava and Daraj, telling people to head to Dar al-Baha in central Gaza. The Israeli military said a route would be opened for civilians to evacuate. The latest Israeli offensive comes as Egypt, Qatar and the United States stepped up efforts to mediate a ceasefire agreement between Israel and Hamas. And the United States on Monday said that senior U.S. officials are in Cairo for talks to achieve a ceasefire between Israel and Hamas. White House National Security spokesperson John Kirby said the talks have resumed, but gaps still remain between the two sides.
We have a team in Cairo right now that includes Brett McGurk and the director of the CIA. They're meeting with their Egyptian, Israeli, and Jordanian counterparts, and there'll be follow-on discussions after that over the next few days. Look, we've been working this very, very hard, and there are still some gaps that remain in the two sides and the positions. The president believes wholeheartedly that this ceasefire proposal that we are trying to get done will make a big difference in terms of not only temporarily ceasing hostilities, but potentially giving us an opening to end this conflict.
Well, in other updates, Israel's opposition leader Yair Lapid has promised to support Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu in the parliament. At a meeting of his parliamentary faction, Lapid reiterated his offer to provide PM Netanyahu a political safety net in order to advance a potential hostage deal, despite the opposition of the premier's far-right allies. Lapid's pledge aims to ensure the release of Israeli hostages and maintain governmental stability despite his political differences with Netanyahu. Head of the Labour Party, Yair Golan, also said he would back Netanyahu on a deal to release the hostages. Some far-right partners in Netanyahu's coalition have said they will quit if the conflict ends before Israel has eradicated Hamas and freed the hostages. Lapid's Yesh Atid party holds 24 seats in the Israeli parliament, a crucial number compared to the 13 seats of the far-right parties opposed to the ceasefire. And now let's take a look at other stories making news around the world. SpaceX launches Turkey's first domestically produced communications satellite. A Falcon 9 rocket launched the Turksat 6A spacecraft from Florida's Cape Canaveral Space Force Station today. Turksat 6A is fitted with Kuwait and X-band transponders. This will provide satellite TV and communication services over parts of Europe, the Middle East and Asia. Archaeologists in Peru unearthed the bone remains of 11 individuals from Chan Chan archaeological site on Monday. The bones are speculated to be of persons from the high hierarchy class of the Chimu culture, which goes back to around 900 CE. Disaster epic film Twisters had its premiere in London on Monday with top stars gracing the red carpet. The film, directed by Isaac Chung, stars Glenn Powell and Daisy Edgar Jones in lead roles and is a present-day tale of his 1996 predecessor.
All right, fellas. We got PhDs from NASA, FEMA, and Kate. She's the smartest person I know.
Hey, dudes.
And still to come on DD India News Hour. Major flooding and road closures as Hurricane Beryl lashes Texas, causing further damage to life and property. We'll give you an update on the monsoons and IMD alerts and situation in Assam and Maharashtra.
Voice of a rising aspirational world. Stories of challenges, struggles and accomplishment. A world battling conflict, hunger and poverty. Embracing growth, development, science and technology. A voice of progress, a voice of unity. Watch Voice of the Global South with me, Akshay Dongre, only on DD India.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India News. I'm Lipakshi Kurana and time now for a quick recap of the headlines. Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi to hold summit talks with Russian President Putin with focus on boosting bilateral ties. PM Modi to receive the Order of St. Andrew the Apostle, Russia's highest honor, on Tuesday. India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi to visit Austria's capital Vienna. PM Modi to become the first Indian PM to visit Austria after a gap of over 40 years, marking 75 years of India-Austria diplomatic relations. US President Joe Biden to host NATO's 75th anniversary summit in Washington. Military and financial support for Ukraine high on the agenda. And in sports, Euro 2024 is into its final stages with just 4 teams remaining in the hunt. High voltage clash tonight as 3 times winner Spain to take on France for a spot in the finals. Well, the US has agreed to forgive $35 million of Indonesian debt over the next 9 years in return for the Southeast Asian country restoring and preserving coral reefs. This debt forgiveness is part of a broader environmental initiative whereby Indonesia commits to restoring and preserving its coral reefs. Coral reefs are crucial ecosystems that support marine biodiversity, protect coastlines from erosion. By participating in this debt for nature swap, Indonesia will implement conservation programs aimed at safeguarding and rehabilitating its coral reefs. Also, the United States announced a second $2 billion foreign military financing direct loan deal with Poland as part of a major modernization program in the European country that will include buying U.S. defense equipment. Poland is purchasing F-35 aircraft, Patriot missile systems and Abrams tanks, State Department spokesperson Matthew Miller said in a statement.
In a coordinated defensive combat.
A North Korean elite military training delegation has left for a visit to Russia. The visit marks the first military exchange between the two countries since their leaders signed a pact pledging closer military cooperation. The military university delegation calls the latest North Korean visit to Russia as they exchanged a record number of high-level officials in the past year, including Russian President Putin's visit to Pyongyang in June. Well, the Philippines rejects China's accusation that its grounded warship in the South China had damaged the coral reef ecosystem in the area, laying the blame for damaging the marine environment on Beijing. The Philippine Task Force in the South China Sea in a statement called for an independent third-party marine scientific assessment of the causes of coral reef damage in the South China Sea. And in markets, Japan's Nikkei hit a record high on Tuesday, while investors elsewhere waited anxiously to see if Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell would sound supportive of rate cuts after evidence the U.S. labor market is cooling. The Nikkei index jumped 1.5% to a fresh record high thanks to gains in semiconductor shares, while MSCI's broadest index of Asia-Pacific shares outside Japan was last flat, having hit a two-year top on Tuesday earlier. Taiwanese shares also hit a record high before running into profit-taking and were last down 0.3%. Chinese blue chips edged 0.1% higher, and Hong Kong's Hang Seng Index lost 0.3%. In the foreign exchange markets, the US dollar steadied near four-week lows at 104.98 against a basket of currencies, offering some respite to the battered yen and yuan. The Japanese yen JPY held at 161 per dollar, having plumbed a 38-year low of 161.96 per dollar last week. And at least 5 army personnel were martyred in a terrorist attack on an army convoy in North India's Jammu and Kashmir. The attack occurred on Monday afternoon when the convoy was on a bridge over a nala in the remote Badnota village in Kathua district. Security forces returned fire, but the terrorists fled into the nearby forest. A search operation by security forces is underway in the Machedi area of Kathua. And India's Defence Minister Rajnath Singh condoled the loss of the lives of soldiers. Taking to the social media platform X, he wrote, and I quote, "I'm deeply anguished at the loss of 5 of our brave Indian Army soldiers in a terrorist attack in Badnota in Kathua. My deepest condolences to the bereaved families. The nation stands firm with them in this difficult time. The counter-terrorist operations are underway and our soldiers are determined to usher in peace and order in the region. I pray for a speedy recovery to those who sustained injuries in this dastardly terror attack." And in U.S., at least 3 people have died in Texas as Hurricane Beryl pummeled the Gulf Coast on Monday, including a police officer on his way to work. Beryl brought heavy rainfall, damaging winds and life-threatening storm surge to the state and left more than 2 million customers without power. Tony Waterman has more from Texas on this.
Now that Beryl is tracking north, officials along the Gulf Coast can really start to assess how extensive the damage is. The storm brought torrential rain to the Houston area, 25 centimeters falling in some areas, which is more than a month's worth of rain. And this was compounded by dangerous storm surge, strong winds bringing that ocean water right on shore. And in fact, near the port of Houston, the water level swelled to more than 3 meters above normal. Only the second time that has happened. And streets were completely flooded, homes were flooded as well, and a number of people had to be rescued. When Beryl hit the Gulf Coast early on Monday morning, it was a Category 1 hurricane with wind gusts of up to 150 kilometers per hour. This brought down power lines and trees. At least 2 people were killed in separate incidents when trees fell through their homes as they were trying to ride the storm out. Other injuries have also been reported. averted. But really of paramount importance right now is restoring power. This is crucial for health and safety, especially in the summer heat. Temperatures in Houston are forecast to reach the mid-30s this week, which could pose a new danger to residents. Beryl is now making its way north as a much weaker storm, but it is just the first in what meteorologists are expecting to be an extraordinary hurricane season. They are predicting up to 13 Atlantic hurricanes this year as water temperatures sit at record highs. Tony Waterman in Austin, Texas, reporting for DD India.
Well, rigid wildfires continue to blaze much of California. The fires burned up to 170 acres as of Monday morning. Wildfire triggered extensive evacuation orders. Damage assessments raised the number of destroyed structures. The California police team found a group of 13 hikers who were reported missing early on Monday morning near the Royal Fire on Donner Pass. Well, Las Vegas saw record-breaking temperatures of 48.3 degrees Celsius as a widespread heat wave lashed the U.S. West Coast. About 36 million people of the country were under excessive heat warnings coming from the heat dome centered over California. Las Vegas sizzled in 53 degrees Celsius through Saturday, breaking a 17-year record of 2007. Authorities have put 36 million people under heat advisories. An extreme heat has taken hold of Calgary and much of Alberta, with temperatures expected to reach 35 degrees Celsius. Canada's weather authorities issued warnings for extremely hot temperatures of 30 to 35 degrees Celsius. Heat warnings are expected to last until Thursday. Many parts of British Columbia have been under advisories and warnings about scorching temperatures for the last few days. And some weather updates now. The Indian Meteorological Department warned of heavy downpours during the rains day on Tuesday in Karnataka, Goa, Arunachal Pradesh and Maharashtra. The weathermen also issued a red alert for these states today. In addition to this, an orange alert is in place for Assam and Meghalaya. Heavy rain lashed several parts of India's western state of Maharashtra's Mumbai city on Tuesday. India Meteorological Department issued a high tide alert in Mumbai following incessant heavy rainfall. Navi Mumbai Municipal Corporation has declared a holiday in all schools and colleges in its jurisdiction in view of the heavy rain warning in the region. The decision came after seeing the roads and locality inundated with rainwater. IMD has predicted heavy rainfall at isolated places in Mumbai till 12th of July. Meanwhile, services of Harbour Line track of Central Railway was operationalized at 4:30 a.m. IST after the water receded on Tuesday. Its services were suspended on a stretch on Monday night due to waterlogging on the tracks amid heavy rains. And DD India's Shishir Sheller joins us from Mumbai on this. Well, Shishir, IMD issues heavy rain warning in Mumbai. How is the current situation as schools are also been declared to be closed?
Yes, absolutely. Yesterday, Mumbai has witnessed a maximum rainfall. It's almost about 300 millimeters. The natural, the normal rainfall probably Mumbai has received is almost between 65 mm. That's the capacity. As far as the IMD is concerned. But yesterday, we have seen a huge downpour in Mumbai, resulting absolutely disruption in normal life. The vehicular movement had disrupted. The local trains in Mumbai has also halted for a few hours, and people got stuck here. But obviously today also the IMD has predicted red alert in Mumbai and adjoining areas along with the Konkan region of Maharashtra as well. And that's the reason precautionary steps have been taken by the authority here. The schools have been given holiday today because of the red alert. At the same time, various teams of the NDRFs have been deployed at various locations, including the Konkan region, the Sindhudurga, Ratnagiri and the Raigad region, because most of the rivers are overflowing, and that's the reason people residing in these river belt areas have been told to shift to some other safe places. As far as today's environment is concerned, today's temperature is concerned, the Mumbai actually received a maximum rainfall yesterday but has stopped now since morning. But the other region like Pune, Nasik receiving heavy rainfall now. That's what the prediction given by the IMD. The Konkan regions continue to slash by the heavy rains here, and that's the reason the local authority have already alerted people that not to venture out of the house even if it is a dire need. As far as the fishermen are concerned, the fishermen have already been alerted that they should not venture into the deep sea for the fishing. As far as the precaution by the state government is concerned, yesterday Chief Minister of Maharashtra, Eknath Shinde, have stated that they have already deployed the NDRF team at various locations in Konkan region and also in Western Maharashtra region. At the same time, as far as the Mumbai is concerned, he said that the BMC, that's the Municipal Corporation of Mumbai, along with the State Department, is working to give relief to the people. Obviously, today there is no rain, so obviously the normalcy has returned to Mumbai Kazia. But the authorities keeping close watch in Mumbai also if the rain occurred. As far as the waterlogging areas are concerned in Mumbai, particularly yesterday, we have seen here that some of the central Mumbai region have seen a waterlogging situation, and that's the reason the pumping, the stations and pumping house have been installed at various locations. Even the Mumbai local trains also witnessed the same kind of situation, and that's the reason a few of the pumping stations have been installed at the railway track so that the normal movement of local trains can be operational even during the high tide, which has been predicted today as well.
All right, Shishir, thank you so much for all that update from there. And the flood situation in North India's Assam has improved as intensity of rains decreased in the past few days. At least 6 people have lost their lives on Monday, taking the death toll up to 72 this year. Brahmaputra in some major areas and 8 other rivers are flowing above danger mark. More than 3,000 villages in 27 districts are still reeling under flood waters affecting over 1.8 million people. More than 48,000 inmates are taking shelter in 543 relief camps across the state. And in India, Subina Roy joins us for more from Dibrugarh in Assam. Well, Subina, can you give us an overall update on the current situation in Assam right now?
Right, Lipakshi, the situation here has improved since the past few days, since the rain conditions. The intensity of rain has decreased. However, the IMD predicts heavy rainfall even today. Until July 10th, it is expected that heavy rainfalls to widespread rainfalls are likely to occur. Lepakshi, still the water levels are above danger level at many rivers, like the Brahmaputra is flowing above danger level at major points like Niyamati Ghat, Tejpur, Jorhat, Guwahati, Dhubri, and the other rivers which are its tributaries like Buri, Dihing, Subansiri, Bara, Kushiara. These are the rivers which are still flowing above danger level. Yesterday, the population affected has reduced from 22 lakh to 18 lakh now, Lepakshi. And now villages which are reeling under flood have reduced to over 3,000 in 91 revenue circles. Yesterday, 6 lives were lost, taking the death toll to around 72, Lepakshi.
All right. Also, Subina, if you talk about the relief measures, how are they going on?
The relief measures which are going on, the NDRF and SDRF are working on a round-the-clock basis to rescue people from the inundated areas to safe relief camps. Like yesterday, around over 500 relief camps were set up, and the relief distribution centers, there were around 298 relief distribution centers which were set up. Around over 48,000 people, inmates are living in relief camps right now. Lepakshi. They are being taken care of with proper medical assistance, and proper food is being assured. The Assam CM has also visited various districts, and he has ensured that proper food and medical assistance is being provided to all flood relief victims.
All right, Subina, relief being provided to the victims there. Thank you so much for all that update from Assam. And more on weather. Drizzling continues in India's western coastal state of Gujarat. A significant amount of rain has been recorded in the southern region of the state. IMD has issued orange alert in such districts, as well as yellow alert is issued in parts of central Gujarat such as Ahmedabad, Gandhinagar, Mehsana, Patan, etc. And still to come, indeed, India News Hour. In tennis, Novak Djokovic advances to Wimbledon Open quarterfinals. And Kuwait launches Hindi radio program, further enhancing India-Kuwait bilateral relations. Ambassador Swaiga speaks on India-Kuwait ties.
We just don't bring you the news as it unfolds. We get to the heart of the matter.
We don't just present facts, we demystify complex social, political and economic events.
We break stories that shape the world's present and future because you deserve the truth.
I am Tanvi Taneja from New Delhi.
I'm Ollie Barrett from London.
I'm Nick Harper from Washington, D.C.
Join us on DD India Global Monday to Friday at these times.
Welcome back. You're watching the India News. I'm Lepakshi Quran, and moving on, Kuwait recently launched a special Hindi radio program on its national radio. The program found mention in India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi's speech on the 111th edition of Mann Ki Baat as well. Did India's correspondent Vinod Kumar talked exclusively to Dr. Adarsh Swaika, Ambassador of India to Kuwait. He spoke at length about the program, its content, role of the Indian expatriate community, and the significance of such initiatives in strengthening cultural ties between countries like India and Kuwait. Take a listen.
It is a matter of immense satisfaction that the recently telecasted or broadcasted Hindi program on Kuwait National Radio, Namaste Kuwait, found mention in Prime Minister Shri Narendra Modi ji's Mann Ki Baat episode. The idea of this program actually came about from the fact that Indians today are the largest expatriate community in Kuwait. They are called the community of first preference, almost over 1 million. So we were trying to find how we can bridge gaps in information for the large Indian community, and this was an idea which we thought would actually put a lot of not only information but also entertainment for our people in Kuwait. In this program, it essentially is being done by the Kuwait National Radio, but if you would have heard the episodes in the last 3-4 months, it basically focuses on the recent developments in both in India and Kuwait, something about sports, something about film industry. Bollywood is very, very popular in Kuwait, Bollywood music, and also some snippets about India-Kuwait historical relationship. I'm sure that it will go a long way in fostering greater cultural cooperation between our two countries. I think to disseminate information related to both culture of India, the culture of Kuwait, among the Indians in Kuwait, as well as the Kuwaitis. I think that that will be a very, very good platform to further strengthen our cultural exchanges.
All right, you're watching the India News. Time now for some sports news. The ongoing European Championship comes to its final stages as 3-time winner Spain will take on France in the Euro 2024 semi-finals tonight in Munich. Both of the past two explosive tournament matches between Spain and France have distinctly felt like a battle for the very soul of football was taking place, and it will be no different when they meet tonight. However, goal-shy France will be looking to silence the critics as they have come under fire from fans for a string of unimpressive performances, having reached the last 4 without scoring a single goal in open play. Meanwhile, their opponents will hope to keep their impressive campaign going even without midfielder Pedri and Dani Carvajal. And Novak Djokovic produced his best display so far at this year's Wimbledon to dispatch Denmark's Holger Rune 6-3, 6-4, 6-2 and reached the quarterfinals for the 15th time on Monday. The 37-year-old Serb was clinical throughout and won the opening 12 points of his centre court clash against the Holger Rune, apart from a minor blip at the end of the second set. Djokovic is bidding to rematch Roger Federer's 8th Wimbledon titles. He will contest his record-extending 60th Grand Slam quarter-final against Australia's Alex de Minaur on Wednesday. And Brazil's women's soccer team trained in the fog in the city of Terespolis on Monday as they prepared for the Olympics. New coach Arthur Elias has been getting the players to grip with Spanish, Nigerian and Japanese squads which they'll face on the group stage. Brazil has 2 silver Olympic medals, one from Athens in 2004 and a second one from Beijing in 2008, but are hoping for their first gold. And NATO Secretary General Jens Stoltenberg threw the ceremonial first pitch for Washington national baseball team on Monday, a light-hearted moment ahead of the NATO meetings in Washington this week. Leaders of NATO's 32-member countries are traveling to the US on the 75th anniversary of the Transatlantic Security Alliance, with further support for Ukraine in the war against Russia's invasion high on their agenda. Baseball has long been known as America's national pastime, and although other sports now boast more spectators, it continues to draw millions of people to ballparks around the country every year. An embassy of France in India organized a high-level conference on India's preparation for Paris 2024 Olympic Games with the Indo-French Chamber of Commerce and Industry on Monday in New Delhi. DD India's Deepika Mehto has a report on this. Take a look.
With less than a month to the year's mega global sports event, Paris Olympics 2024, Embassy of France in India organized a high-level conference on India's preparation for Paris 2024 Olympic Games with the Indo-French Chamber of Commerce and Industry on Monday in New Delhi. Speaking on the occasion, Thierry Mathieu, Ambassador of France to India, said that not only India and France are fostering relationship in sports sector with having events spread across India for the upcoming Olympics event, but France is also going to create many records at the upcoming Olympics.
I'm sure that this new MOU will add a new dimension in the bilateral interaction and cooperation between France and India.
Speaking about how France is gearing up for the mega event, India's first Olympic gold medalist Abhinav Bindra said that Olympics in France is going to be a visual spectacle.
I think the Paris Games are going to be a visual spectacle. I mean, just the sporting venues at the backdrop of these iconic venues, I think it's going to be a feast for the eyes. I think it's going to be very, very interesting. The games are going to be much more youthful, much more vibrant with the inclusion of many urban sports.
France as a nation is focusing on innovation, sustainability and inclusivity as the main pillars of global games. As per its innovative effort, for the first time, the opening ceremony will take place at Seine River. 4 new disciplines will be there, including climbing, surfing and skateboarding. It is also going to be the most eco-friendly and green games. France is also aiming to achieve gender equality, which is on top of its diplomatic agenda. A special summit is also to be organized on the eve of the opening ceremony on sports and its sustainable development goals, or the SDGs. There will be one common logo for Paralympics and Olympics as well across the same venue. 90% of the venues will be used for the competition, turning the entire city into an Olympics venue. So one can also attend the opening ceremony at different fan zones spread across India, which are being set up by the Embassy of France in India. So with all eyes on the upcoming Olympics, the hope of getting more number of gold medals increases day by day as we look at the preparations in run-up to Paris Olympics 2024. Deepika Mehto's report for DD India.
Alright, that's all for this edition of DD India News Hour, but let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. For those on the go, you can get all the latest news and updates from India and across the world on the DD India mobile app. The app is available on both Android and iOS platforms. Scan the QR code on the screen to download now. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. Lipakshi Khurana from all of us here in Delhi. Thanks for watching DD India News Hour.